guys, so for today's video I am going to be doing a gingerbread set. So to start off, I am taking gingerbread from Ballpit and I am painting all of the nails with this. I did 2 coats of this and I cured each coat for 60 seconds. I absolutely love this color and I definitely don't use it enough, but also I feel like I don't really have many sets that I do that require me to use this set. It's this really pretty shimmery brown color. It's also one of those like memory polishes where you can see the brush strokes left behind and you can do like little designs and stuff in this polish and it will hold those lines on, or like the brush strokes or swirls or whatever you do in it. So it does level out, so it's not super bumpy and lumpy, but it doesn't level out to the point where you don't see the brush strokes. Right now it's kind of hard to see the brush strokes. You can kind of see them a little bit as I'm painting it, but I do show a clip and a little bit of like what it looks like if you were to do some little swirls in it and how it holds its shape like that, and it doesn't just level out and become a smooth, even finish on the polish. So here is what I'm talking about. I'm doing a second coat here just so I can show you guys what it looks like to do some sort of design in this polish. So I just applied the second coat, and while it's still wet, I took a dotting tool and just kind of swirled it in the polish to create like a little swirly design. I didn't keep the swirled look on this nail because that's not the kind of look that I was going for. I wanted it to look like, you know, a gingerbread cookie or whatever, but I did want to show you what it would look like if you were to do a design in the nail. Or I have used, I think I've used this polish before. No, it was on one of my mermaid sets. I used like a white pearl one that does the same kind of thing. Ballpit does have quite a few different colors that do this as well. You can see as I'm swirling it, you can still see that swirled pattern. It is a little bit hard to see on camera, but you can kind of see what I'm talking about, how if you swirl it on, or even if you take like a liner brush and draw some like diagonal lines or something, or if you were to like write something on the nail, like you would be able to see those lines still, and it will hold like that, and you can have a cool little design. I also did something like this during Halloween with a purple color, and I swirled it around to give it like some cool little texture on the nail. But like I said, it levels out to where you don't feel like the bumpiness from swirling it or anything, but it doesn't level out to where you don't see those lines anymore. And then if you don't like that, just like how if you mess up with your cat eye design, you can just brush your brush right back over the nail and it will, basically erase whatever you did, and you just have, a normal painted nail. So after getting all of those painted and cured, I did go in with some alcohol and remove the sticky layer because I am going to be doing some nail art on top. And for the ring nail and the pointer nail, I wanted to do some snowflakes. So I just took these little stencils I have here. I got them last year in one of the mystery boxes that I got, but you can buy them from a lot of different places. Just look up like airbrush stencils or like nail stencils or something. And I just took a sponge and dipped it into some white polish and sponged that on to create some little snowflakes because I didn't feel like painting snowflakes on. And I did 2 snowflakes on each of these nails, and I was testing to see if I could use one stencil like multiple times, and it did work. The only problem I was running into though was, you can see on that very first snowflake that I did, all the lines are very crisp and clean, and you can tell it was a snowflake because I had no problems with smushing that stencil down on the nail to make sure there was no like gaps or anything that polish could get under. But after doing that first snowflake there, because there was polish on the stencil after that, it was kind of hard for me to push it down because I'm not wearing any gloves. If I was wearing gloves, I could have pushed it down with my finger, but I'm not, so it was kind of hard. I was trying to push it down as much as I could with the tweezers, but it just wasn't working very well. So I probably would recommend using a different stencil for each little snowflake you wanted to do, or whatever design you're doing with these stencils. But like I said, maybe if I was wearing gloves and was able to actually push the stencil down all the way onto the nail like I did with that first one, it might have been fine. But also I don't really know because that's not what I did. Also, after sponging on the white, I did just do a real quick flash cure before removing the stencil and placing it on a different part of the nail to do the next snowflake. And then once I got both the snowflakes on the nails, I did do a full 60-second cure just to make sure that everything was completely cured. And by the time I got to this last snowflake here, you can tell that the stencil wasn't really working as well anymore compared to that very first snowflake that I had done. And then for the thumbnail and the pinky nail, I did some like drips coming down, kind of like icing drips or like snow drips, I guess. From the like cuticle area of the nail, I just took a liner brush. This is my 9mm liner brush, and I just kind of did like a little squiggly type of a situation up at the top, and then filled that all in. And then once I got that filled in, I did go ahead and cure for a full 60 seconds. And I did only do one coat of this because I am using the white from Ballpit, and that is a 1-coat coverage white, so I didn't have to worry about doing a second coat on this. It covered up that brown really nicely. And before moving on to the pinky nail, I decided I wanted on the thumbnail to have like a door, like this was the door of the gingerbread house. So I'm just taking that white again and drawing like this little arch here to be the door, and then I did a little dot for the little door handle. I do kind of wish I would have done the door handle in like red or green to match what I'm doing later on, but also to kind of look like it was like a little gumdrop or something as the door handle instead of just making it white. But I was not thinking about that when I did it. And then after I got this painted on, I did go ahead and cure for a full 60 seconds. Now I'm taking Hello Sydney from NAILZ by Dev and a 5mm liner brush just to do some little like candy cane stripes on the door to make it kind of look like it was made out of candy canes. I felt like this was a really good red for this because it's kind of a brighter red, and I feel like candy canes are like a bright red, so that's why I went with this red. And then after I got those painted on, I did go ahead and cure for a full 60 seconds. And then, like I said earlier, I did that same little like icing snow drip on the pinky nail, and I didn't add anything else to the pinky nail. I just did the little snow drip, but instead of filling in that entire area with my liner brush, I did end up taking the brush straight from the bottle and painting it that way just so it could go a little bit quicker. Again, only doing one coat of this, and once I got it all painted on, I did cure for 60 seconds. And then I had this little tray of like rhinestones and charms and stuff. I don't know where I got that from. I've had it for a while. It either came in like a kit of like Christmas decorations, or I bought it off of like Temu, AliExpress, or something like that. Um, But if you just type in like Christmas charms or something like that, you could find stuff like this. Um, but anyhow, I'm taking the little red and green rhinestones out of it, and I'm going to put those on the little white part because I wanted it to kind of look like little gumdrops or something on that little snow part, or like what would be, I guess, the roof of the gingerbread house. So I'm just taking the gummy jelly rhinestone glue from Nail Couture and applying that onto the nail. I was mainly trying to focus that rhinestone glue up on the white part, but I did kind of have to drag it down a little bit because I applied a little bit too much, and I didn't just want like this giant glob of rhinestone glue up at the top of the nail. So I did drag it down a little bit to blend it into the nail so it wasn't like super thick and chunky up there at the top. And then I take my shiny top coat from LGN and apply that right on top. I always do this whenever I use charms or rhinestones because I don't like to try and go around everything afterwards with the top coat because I don't want to get any of that top coat on top of any of the charms or rhinestones. Especially if I'm using rhinestones, I don't want any top coat getting on them and messing up the like shine and sparkle of them. So I apply my rhinestone glue, then go right over top with my top coat. I do think this rhinestone glue is no wipe, so technically I don't really have to top coat it, but also I just want to make sure that everything has the same kind of shine to it. So as if I top coat it, then um with the same top coat, then it all like is the same shininess, because I've noticed that not all rhinestone glues are equal, and when it comes to how shiny they are and like the finish that they leave behind. So that's also another reason why I like to apply my top coat on top of the rhinestone glue like that. Now I'm going to take this silicone mold that I got either from Vetsy or Varnell in one of the mystery boxes. You can find silicone molds just about anywhere now because they are super popular now. But I'm just taking reindeer games from Nails by Dev, and with the brush straight from the bottle, I'm just putting the polish in there. I'm like kind of dabbing it in there, just so I can get it in the mold. And I do try to kind of push it down into like the arms and the legs, but later I do take a liner brush and use that to get in there better and to push that polish down in there better. I would recommend using a dotting tool for that though. That way you don't run the risk of messing up your liner brush by like jabbing it into a silicone mold like this. That could mess up your brushes, so I would recommend using a dotting tool instead. I also like to bring the polish up the sides of the mold. That way, when I do fill it in with the rhinestone glue later, you don't see the division between the polish and the rhinestone glue. But after I get this all filled in, I do go ahead and cure that for 60 seconds. And then when I was trying to get some more polish out, disaster struck. And I don't really know exactly what happened there, but you could see polish just went everywhere. I guess I didn't wipe the brush off good enough or something, but it was a little bit of a disaster when trying to get that out, so I had to clean all that up before continuing on with what I was doing. So after curing that first layer of brown, there were still some spots that were a little thin and you could see like through the brown. So I did do a second coat of that just to make sure that everything was covered and there wasn't going to be any spots that weren't going to have the brown and you would be able to like see through and it would just look clear, or like you could see through to the base color of the nail. And I just did the same thing and just put some polish in there and then kind of spread it around with my liner brush here, and then I cured that layer for 60 seconds as well. Now I'm taking the Squeeze Gummy Jelly from Nail Couture, which is just the gummy jelly rhinestone glue just in a squeezy tube. I like using this whenever I'm using this mold to fill it in. It goes a lot quicker than like scooping out some rhinestone glue out of a tube. And I'm just going to squeeze some of that in there to fill the rest of this mold up. And I will take my liner brush to get it in like the arms and the legs and to spread it around to make sure it's all even. And then once that is all on, I do go ahead and cure for 60 seconds. And then once it's all cured, I just pop it out of the mold. Gel polish doesn't stick to silicone, so it's super easy to pop anything out of these little silicone molds. You may end up having some little scraggly bits like you can see around the head and like the arms. Those are easy to get off. You can just like file them off, or you could take like your cuticle nippers and just clip them off because they're super thin and they come off super easy. And then the way that this mold is, it makes the little charms curved, so they do sit flat on the nail, which is really nice. And then you don't have to top coat it at all because there is no sticky layer. And the reason why there is no sticky layer is because it's not that very first layer that's touching the mold isn't exposed to air, and that's why there's that sticky layer, because the polish that is exposed to like the air doesn't fully cure, leaving that sticky layer behind. But because it's not exposed to air, it doesn't leave that sticky layer. And then the backing of it isn't sticky either because I used a rhinestone glue that cures without a sticky layer. So to adhere this little gingerbread charm on, I just took the rhinestone glue, squeezed a little bit out, took my shiny top coat and applied that to the nail. Now I'm just taking the little charm, smushing him on to the nail where I want him. Like I said, because he is a little curved, he does sit nice and flat on the nail. His arms do come up a little bit. So if you want to make sure that that doesn't get caught on anything, you can fill in that area there with some rhinestone glue. That way he's not getting caught on like your hair or your clothes or anything. Then I cure that for 60 seconds. And now I'm going in and painting all of the little details. So his eyes, mouth, buttons, the little frosting on his arms and legs, and his bow tie. You can paint all those in the mold. I did that last year when I used this. I did a little gingerbread set when I got this little mold, and I did paint like all of those on the mold instead of painting it afterwards. But also I didn't want to do that this time because that is really time consuming, and then you have to cure each of those layers, and you have to fully cure them, otherwise they won't be fully cured, and then that's a whole problem because you don't want to have uncured gel on your nails. So I felt like it was just going to be quicker if I painted them on after I got the little gingerbread on the nail. So I just took the black from Ballpit, filled in his little eyes and buttons. Again, I do wish that I would have done his buttons with like red or green to make them look like little gumdrops and to match the rhinestones on the other nails, but I was not thinking about that. Then I took the white from Ballpit, did his mouth and the little icing stripes on his arms and legs. And then I took that same red that I used earlier. I think it's Hello Sydney from Nails by Dev. And painted on his little bow. On the bow, you can see there is a little air bubble there because I didn't have enough gel polish right there, so it ended up having a little air bubble. If I would have noticed that before I cured it, I could have added more gel or popped that little air bubble that was right there before curing it, but I didn't. So at this point, it's there wasn't really much I could do. The only thing that I could really do was fill that little area in there with the red polish to try and cover it up a little bit, which is what I did. But yeah, if you have any air bubbles, or before you cure your molds, you want to check for air bubbles, and if you do have air bubbles, just poke them out with a dotting tool, or you can kind of like move the polish around to get that air bubble out of there and then go ahead and cure. Otherwise you're gonna have, air bubbles or like little holes on your little charm thingy there. But then after I got all of the details painted on, I did go ahead and cure for a full 60 seconds. And then since I did paint on top, I do have to go in and top coat it. I probably could have just wiped it off with alcohol, but then you do run the risk of that polish chipping off. And while that doesn't matter for my case because these aren't getting worn for an extended period of time, if you are planning on wearing or painting charms like this and wearing them for a long time, you do want to make sure you're top coating if you're painting on top of it because it will chip off. So I'm just top coating it with my NAILZ by Dev matte top coat, making sure that I'm not getting any of that on the base of the nail because I want the base to be shiny and I want my gingerbread man to be matte. Then I cure that for 60 seconds, and right after I top coated that, I also went ahead and top coated these two nails here with the snowflakes since they hadn't been top coated yet. And then the NAILZ by Dev matte top coat is a wipe off top coat, so after you cure it, it does still have that sticky layer, so you have to take some alcohol and wipe that off. That also reveals the like matte effect of the top coat. And this is the finished result. I think this set is super cute. I do kind of wish instead of doing those snowflakes, I would have done more of the little icing drips on those nails instead because I think that looks super cute with the rhinestones added as well. I low-key kind of feel like the snowflakes don't fit in very well with this set. I did do a set kind of sort of similar to this last year where I used the little snowflake, what are they called? Stencils and the gingerbread mold as well. And it made sense when I did it with those because of the way I went about that set. It kind of, the idea behind that set was like making it look like you were baking and you made a gingerbread man and you had like powdered sugar or like flour or something all over, and then you like drew out a little snowflake in the middle of it. So that made sense for that set, but I kind of feel like for this set it doesn't really fit that well. I was kind of thinking like, oh, he's out in the snow is falling, but I think I probably should have just painted the snowflakes on, or like used stickers or something. I don't know. I'm not really a huge fan of these snowflakes. It also might be because the reusing the stencil didn't really work too well for me. Um so I don't know. But overall, I do think this set is super cute and I really love it. It is really good for a Christmas set. And oh, I really love this brown polish and how shiny and shimmery it is. But that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.